Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this morning's webinar, Planning for Zero Waste Week and Beyond. My name is Camilla Sherwin. I have recently joined PECT as a sustainability consultant. Prior to working at PECT, I've been in the environmental sector for about 15 years, most recently doing freelance project management, including running a waste minimization project in my local town. But prior to that, I was working at a recyclables market development program called London Remade. So this gives a quick idea of the things that we will be covering today. Principles of good waste management, some simple ideas about how to help reduce waste in your workplace. And as everybody's working from home, or many people are working from home at the moment, I'll also try and cover a few points that could be incorporated into that sort of working situation, how to engage staff and the IIE resources that are available for you to do that, and give some case studies of good practice. So just to set the scene, the UK's waistline. Well, it's despite all our best efforts, we can year on year we seem to be producing more waste. The most recent figures have just been announced. They were for 2018. There's always a time lag in collecting these figures. And the total waste generation in the UK, including recycling, was 220 million tonnes. Now, commercial and industrial waste makes up about 20% of this, and household waste is about 12%. So that just gives you a bit of an idea of the size of the issue. There are a few other sort of statistics that we need to be aware of. We are, in the UK, we are the third largest generator of single-use plastics. We use about 44 kg of plastic per annum per person. So we're just behind Australia and the US on that. And also 26% of the world's population use about 86% of its resources. So we're in that 26%. And we need to really change the way that we regard resources to put a greater value on them. And that includes waste, actually. So what is being done to try and change this? Well, all the governments have produced waste strategies. This is the one for England, which is probably most pertinent for those listening in to this webinar. It's available to download on the .gov.uk website. It has 8 main chapters. These are the areas that are covered within them. So just to briefly go over those that I think will be most appropriate for this audience. Sustainable production is looking at how we make things, and that's on the basis that 80% of the damage inflicted upon the environment when products become waste could be avoided if more thoughtful decisions were made at the production stage. So the government is looking to invoke the polluter pays principle and extend producer responsibility for packaging, ensuring that those who put packaging onto the market pay for the full cost of its management and sort of disposal. They are looking to stimulate the demand for recycled plastic, in part through the introduction of a tax on plastic packaging that contains less than 30% recycled content. Now, you would have seen this coming into force already. Many bags now have a recycled content, and when you go and get your laundry detergent or even buy a drink, most of the labels on bottles now talk about the recycled content in the packaging. They are looking to set minimum standards for eco-design, to encourage greater efficiency in design, and looking to manage chemicals more sustainably, so addressing barriers to reuse and their recycling. On the sustainable consumption front, they're looking to try and enable consumers to make more considered decisions, more informed decisions. So these include giving more information about the sustainability of products on their labels. Addressing barriers to reuse and repair. Now, this has recently come to the fore with the introduction of the right to repair. Producers of equipment and goods, many types of goods, now have to make those products more easily repairable, so more screws and less glue, and fewer sealed components. And those manufacturers also have to put items, spare parts onto the market so that products can be more easily repaired. The government is also looking to ban plastic products where there's a clear case for it and alternatives exist. Now, earbuds and plastic straws are a good example of this. Earbuds, I mean, that had plastic stems. They now all have a more sustainable material making up the stem, like bamboo or paper. And the government is also looking to support the market for remanufactured goods and helping that by greening government and public sector procurement. So they're also looking to increase recycling rates, so harmonise the collections that are made from the curbside, from outside houses, but also those that are made from workplaces, so that what you do at home, you do in your workplace too. They're also looking to get tough on waste crime, so tackling fly tipping and littering, and cutting food waste is another big area of sort of action, based on the fact that in the UK alone, it is estimated that 10 million tonnes of food and drink are wasted post-farm gate each year, worth about 20 billion pounds. So amongst other things, the government is aiming to improve redistribution systems to get food to those who most need it before it goes to waste, and consult on food surplus reporting by food businesses. Now, obviously, this redistribution element has been quite important during COVID, and I think we have seen an improvement in that, which is good news, because not only is it a huge waste of money wasting food, but it's also a huge producer of greenhouse gases as well, and a waste of all that went into producing that food. So they're also encouraging research and innovation in the area through a series of public tenders and funding, and wanting to measure their progress towards meeting their targets. So the other thing that the strategy talks about is this idea of the circular economy. This is getting away from the take, make, waste linear approach to resource use that we have developed over the past 40, 50 years or so, and towards a system where resources are kept in use. And this is a good little video from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, which introduces the subject.
Living systems have been around for a few billion years and will be around for many more. In the living world, there's no landfill. Instead, materials flow. One species' waste is another's food, energy is provided by the sun, things grow, then die, and nutrients return to the soil safely. And it works. Yet as humans, we've adopted a linear approach. We take, we make, and we dispose. A new phone comes out, so we ditch the old one. Our washing machine packs up, so we buy another. Each time we do this, we're eating into a finite supply of resources and often producing toxic waste. It simply can't work long term. So what can? If we accept that the living world's cyclical model works, can we change our way of thinking so that we too operate a circular economy? Let's start with the biological cycle. How can our waste build capital rather than reduce it? By rethinking and redesigning products and components, and the packaging they come in, we can create safe and compostable materials that help grow more stuff. As they say in the movies, No resources have been lost in the making of this material. So what about the washing machines, mobile phones, fridges? We know they don't biodegrade. Here, we're talking about another sort of rethink, a way to cycle valuable metals, polymers, and alloys so they maintain their quality and continue to be useful beyond the shelf life of individual products. What if the goods of today became the resources of tomorrow? It makes commercial sense. Instead of the throw away and replace culture we've become used to, we'd adopt a return and renew one, where products and components are designed to be disassembled and regenerated. One solution may be to rethink the way we view ownership. What if we never actually owned our technologies? We simply licensed them from the manufacturers. Now, let's put these two cycles together. Imagine if we could design products to come back to their makers, their technical materials being reused and their biological parts increasing agricultural value. And imagine that these products are made and transported using renewable energy. Here we have a model that builds prosperity long term. And the good news is, there are already companies out there who are beginning to adopt this way of working. But the circular economy isn't about one manufacturer changing one product. It's about all the interconnecting companies that form our infrastructure and economy coming together. It's about energy. It's about rethinking the operating system itself. We have a fantastic opportunity to open new perspectives and new horizons. Instead of remaining trapped in the frustrations of the present, with creativity and innovation, we really can rethink and redesign our future.
So if the name Ellen Macarthur is sounding familiar to you, she is the young lady who had amazing sailing success about 10 years ago and has now dedicated a lot of her fortune to trying to solve the environmental crisis. So this idea of the circular economy is based on three main principles: to design out waste and pollution, to keep products and materials in use, and to regenerate natural systems. So some of you will be looking at that and thinking, well, we're already doing a lot of that. It definitely is already in evidence. Photocopying services being a good example, where often you don't own, businesses don't own the photocopying machine, they lease it, and it is managed and repaired by the contracting company, by the company who brings the photocopying machine in. So it is definitely already in evidence, and on a smaller scale, a household level or a small business level, you know, if you've been getting your milk in glass bottles, then you have already been playing a part in the circular economy. But it is an area where there are more and more entrants to the market, and it's being viewed as a real business opportunity. So a few examples of this are Loop, who are working with Tesco's, delivering branded products in reusable containers, which are then returned for refilling. You might have a zero waste shop near you, where you take in your own containers to fill up with dried foods, with household cleaning liquids, with other toiletry sort of shampoos and shower gels, that sort of thing. And it's this idea of getting away from single-use packaging, avoiding that, but reusing your own containers to fill up your home cupboards, food cupboards. Colliebox down in the bottom left here are tackling the use of single-use containers in takeaway deliveries. So you pay a deposit when you get your first takeaway delivery in a box like this, and then the next time you get a takeaway, you give that box back and you get another one to replace it, which is filled with hot food. And also at many events, stadiums now, you often get your drink served in a plastic cup upon which you pay a deposit, and you swap cups for the rest of the event until you've had your last drink, at which point you hand your cup back and you get your deposit back. Bottom right here is a picture of My Wardrobe HQ, which is a service which rents out clothes. Many of the mainstream brands are doing this as well, trying to slow up this fast fashion that has developed over the past few years. The idea being that they rent out higher quality, maybe more expensive garments than you might normally purchase. You use them for a few months, and then when you've had enough of them, you return them back to those who are renting them out. And it's a way of refreshing your wardrobe without entering into this this linear approach to fashion, and which has become very resource intensive, masses of garments being used for a very short length of time. So what's your role in this? Well, as a business, then you have a legal obligation to manage your waste in accordance with the waste hierarchy. Businesses are responsible for the production, storage, transportation, disposal, including recycling of your waste in a way that doesn't harm the environment, even once it's been collected by a contractor. I mentioned the waste hierarchy. Many of you will be familiar with this. This diagram is used quite often. Up in the reduce section there, it's sometimes called prevention. The reuse line includes repair, refurbishment, repurposing, the handing on of items, all the getting of items yourselves that weren't new, and buying secondhand, I suppose. Recycling is the turning waste into a new material, a new substance, and that includes composting if it meets quality protocols. Recovery includes anaerobic digestion, incineration with energy recovery, gasification, pyrolysis, this sort of destruction of waste, but with energy recovery. And then the last of all, and the least environmentally sound, is the disposal of materials to landfill or incineration without energy recovery. So a good way to go about setting up a strong waste management system is to do a waste audit process. It has various stages, I suppose, or elements to it. First of all, you need to look at where is your waste being generated, and do a process flow with inputs, any additions, outputs, and what are the and byproducts, with waste being a byproduct. Now, those of you who are working just in offices might think, well, we're not making anything, but you are, because you are obviously your output is a satisfied client or a happy customer, but you'll be producing something like documents in there, so it can still be done. You'll have other wastes, I suppose, as well. Sometimes you'll have emissions, so that is, part of it. But we're looking at physical waste, the sort of waste that goes in your bin in this process. You need to know what type, what your waste is, and whether it is actually subject to any greater sort of restrictions, or ways in which it should be managed. You need to classify it. So you'll have normal bin waste and then recycling, but you might have a hazardous waste stream. Those of us who managing sort of clinical wastes, but even batteries, electrical wastes, then they are classified as being hazardous, and they need to be managed in a specific way. So your contractor plays an important role in this. Having a reliable, they must be licensed waste collector is very, very important. Larger organizations will have individual contracts, smaller organizations, your waste may be collected by your local authority. But regardless of the size of your business, you should be receiving waste transfer notes for the collection of your waste and recycling, and waste consignment notes for the collection of your hazardous waste. So you should have those, make sure that you have those permits and the right permits and licenses in place as well, and keep evidence of all of them, because as I said, the waste and recycling that your business generates is your business's responsibility. So you need to keep evidence of that audit trail. So having got that far, then looking at your process and seeing if there are efficiencies that can be made. Is there a way to design your process better so that you cut out waste? Is there a way that you can receive your deliveries with less packaging, or the packaging can go back to your supplier for reuse? Look at the content of your waste stream and then tackle each bit and see if you can make your process more efficient so that you avoid waste. And then you must know where your waste is ending up. Again, it goes back to this audit trail, but it is your responsibility to find that out. So you need to ask your contractor. So I was just talking about larger contracts. Good waste contractors will provide you with good information. So this is an example of information that is provided to a large client. It should be giving you reporting about what your waste was made of, how much recycling is collected, what's the constituent parts of that recycling. Should be giving you compliance information, should be giving you information about how much it cost. And you also should be able to see things like seasonal variations, or making sure that you're getting best value for money by, can you actually reduce the number of lifts that you're paying for, making sure that your waste collection is as efficient as possible. Just an example of why you need to know what's happening to each of your waste streams. I was talking to a vet the other day, and they had a lot of hand towels going into their clinical waste. Now, clinical waste is really expensive to collect, so they were paying vast amounts of money for the collection of what is just a normal waste stream, that they didn't need to do that, and that was because staff didn't know, weren't aware that they needed to act differently. So on that point, actually, building your team's knowledge and skills will really help you put into place good waste management systems. Now, this can be through formal training, can be certified, can contribute towards CPD, or it can be much less formal, and it could be something like a visit, or even just a lunchtime sort of information session about what is happening to your waste. The picture on the right here is of a materials recovery facility. So it's the place where your commingled waste, so waste collected that is bottles, paper, cans, cardboard, all collected up together. It goes off to be separated in one of these vast, sort of like a factory, really. And the technology is really impressive, that sorts all these materials out, and the volumes you see going through are just sort of staggering. But it's quite an interesting, you might not think that people might not think they'd be interested in having a look, but honestly, it is fascinating. So going back to this, the waste hierarchy, in the IIE program, sort of as a bare minimum, we want you all to have recycling systems in place. But really, if you want to improve your environmental performance, where we want you to be acting is up in this reduce and reuse stage. So having evaluated what is in your waste stream, to reduce it, you just need to go through and think about what's in it, and and think through all these stages. So rethinking your processes. Is there a way that you can, for example, always set all your printers to duplex printing so that you reduce your paper waste? Is there an element of redesigning your production process so that you cut out a waste? I was talking to a man who made banners the other day, and he said that the width of his material was 2 meters. So if he made banners that were 2 meters high or 1 meter high, he could, there was much less waste than if he made something that was sort of 1 meter 75. So simple things like that. I know what I would be encouraging customers to order if that was me. And I mentioned the idea of talking to suppliers about how packaging can be minimized. I mean, that's a really big thing, and it's grown, hasn't it, in lockdown hugely as everybody gets deliveries of different types. In reuse and refilling, well, this is looking at how you not only can your items from your office be reused, but also how you can reuse items. So can you have, for example, reusable coffee cups, so that if people are going to get a drink at lunchtime, can they take a reusable cup to the cafe? Can you speak to your local cafe? Maybe they'll give a reduction on people bringing in their own reusable coffee cups. Things like, can every member of staff bring in a reusable water bottle each day rather than a single-use drinks bottle? Refilling, so I mean, this can take place in the home as well as at work, but can you buy in bulk? Can you go to a zero waste shop and minimize your use of single-use packaging by buying refilling cleaning fluid bottles or whatever it is that you might have a lot of in your waste stream? So repair and repurpose, well, as that video said, we need to get a bit better at, instead of thinking, oh, it doesn't work, we'll throw it out, to repairing it. Kind of mobile phone screens are a good example of this, but can be anything, can be from clothing as well. And repurposing, well, can your waste become somebody else's treasure? Really good example of this is it's admittedly about an emission, but there's a factory up in the northeast which generates CO2 as a byproduct of its process. And they realized that actually, if they teamed up with the local tomato grower and built a greenhouse next door, they could pipe their waste CO2 into the greenhouse and grow these amazing, healthy tomatoes. So another good example of this on a large scale is waste tires from a car breakers that was shredded and put into the road surface on the Cambridge guided bus route, which has the impact of not only using a waste resource to replace a virgin material, but also reduces sound. So there's a huge reduction of sound pollution because tires generate less sound when rubbing against other tires. Can you repurpose? So if you're doing an office refurb, can your IT or your furniture be handed on to another organization? There are many. The furniture recycling network is really efficient in this, and of course, charity shops have been doing this sort of thing for years. Going on to recycling, so you might have the materials that are collected by your usual contractor, but they might be limited. So are there other items that you can easily recycle? I know, for example, our local accountants in the town where I live collect cartridges, printer cartridges from other local organizations, and they send them off to raise money for charity. So, or you might look into something like a TerraCycle collection. TerraCycle collects hard to recycle waste, so things like used dental products or used makeup packaging, crisp packets, things like that, that don't go into your usual recycling collection. And then, of course, if we're going to build the markets for these recycled materials, then we need to close the loop and buy recycled, buy our waste back. Now, how to engage staff? Well, waste is always a good place to start. Everyone creates it and everyone hates it, particularly litter. So it's a very obvious and tangible area of environmental impact, and you know, has huge impacts not only on nature but also on our local environment. Plus, the reason why I put this fish image into the presentation is that you might just be able to see that this fish, when it was caught, it actually had masses of plastic in its stomach. Now, that is the plastic we can see, but there will be lots more plastic, microplastics, that have actually got into the flesh of the fish. So it's actually getting into our food stream, our food chain. And the thing about waste is it can be a good way to nudge people into action. If you start them on litter picking, you really want them up at the sort of reduction and, you know, thinking about waste reduction, but actually if you need to start them at litter picking and then nudge them up the sort of waste hierarchy yourself, then, you know, that's a great achievement. It can be very satisfying as well, of course, if you get a tremendous secondhand item or hand-me-down, or if you tidy up a beautiful local park or something through litter picking. So participating in a campaign is a good way to do this. Zero Waste Week runs every September in the first full week of September. In 2021, that'll be the 6th to the 10th of September. It was started in 2008 in reaction to a major climate event. It's very much a grassroots campaign, encouraging people to work in their local community. So whether that is a workplace, your home community at home, or with an organization that you are connected to, or a school. So it's based on, you know, zero waste is a very hard to achieve, but the idea behind it is that if everybody does something together, we can have a bigger impact. There are various IIE resources available to help you with your campaign. There are posters in the awareness posters and campaigns folder in the Dropbox linked through the members pack. And there's also this campaign guide, which is got loads of different ideas in it about what you could do during a zero waste week. So it's really useful. In the waste management folder in the same Dropbox, there is a waste audit guide and waste management tips to help you with you know, make sure that your waste management system is robust. So this is just to give you some pictures of the resources. They're quite eye-catching, but you may wish to design your own. So before a zero waste week, planning is everything. So get support from senior management. You might need a bit of extra time. You might even get some budget, you never know. Get support from colleagues, set up a green team, or recruit people who aren't usually involved. So this could be facilities managers, someone from the cleaning team, and also do a survey, find out what really annoys people or what ideas they have, and then try and use those, build on those ideas to incorporate into your campaign. If you're all working from home, then you might want to just get people to pledge to do something differently in their own home. More on those ideas in a moment. So plan it, and including a communications campaign, because you want people to know as early as possible that it's going to happen, and so they are ready for it. And then you know, during the week you'll be communicating it too, and then launch it. And one of the things that it suggests in the campaign guide is to tape up your bins. So the night before the actual day it starts, get your gaffer tape out and tape up the bins so that only recycling bins are available, to make people really think about it. So during the week then, oh, and I forgot to mention that you want to measure your waste, obviously, before you start the campaign, because you want to see what impacts you have, and that could also be done at home. People could see how much waste they generate in a fortnightly period prior to making changes to their behavior. So during the week itself, send around daily reminders. You can get loads of statistics about waste. The WRAP website is a good place to go. Recycle Now, I think it is. Hubbub, they also have loads of good statistics about waste and recycling. Then have a series of lunchtime events or competitions or activities. So I mentioned the sort of the audit at the Slim Your Bin campaign at home. See who can make the most measurable differences in the amount of waste they generate. You might want to have lunchtime sort of information sessions, or you might want to run something like a book swap or a clothes swap or a decluttering session where people bring in household items they no longer use and have the chance to take something else away with them. So things like that to try and get some buzz, some engagement around it. You could also show them, little video clips, a bit like the one I've just shown you now, or you can cut things from, there's a really good video film called Closing the Loop, which has lots of different examples of what businesses are doing to develop this circular economy idea. So make it engaging, have some fun with it, applaud the people who've done well. I don't think you particularly want to disgrace those who haven't, but try and get some fun with it as well. I think we all need that now. Other ideas of things like zero waste lunches. I talked about committing to using a refillable bottle, refillable coffee cups each week, every lunchtime or for the whole week. So different ideas that just might nudge people into changing their behavior. Measure the impact of your campaign and see what differences you make. Afterwards, report what's been achieved and try and get thank those who were involved, but try and get information about whether they're going to change their behavior longer term, and tell IIE about it. So there are a few other, I've mentioned a few other resources that are available. Here are a few more. So Olio is a food sharing app increasingly used by companies like Tesco and One Stop and more sort of those food on the go sort of places where they put food that is past its sell by date but not past its use by date. They advertise it there for people and it's free to collect. And you can also share other items if you have, and people can advertise their own food waste. If they've bought too many yogurts or something like that, then they can file them on this Olio, and it gives a notification to all people in there who are signed up to the app who are in their area. Great way to reduce food waste. Freegal and FreeCycle are where people put items that are free to a good home. The Refill app is brilliant. It shows where people can refill their water bottle at no cost, even if they're not a customer in the cafe or the library or the shop providing the service, and also where you can find your nearest zero waste shop, and where you can also take the cafe's happy to serve you in a reusable coffee cup, or other food shops actually who, butchers and the like, who will be happy to serve you in your own packaging, in your own sort of box or tub. The Geeky Zero is really a carbon footprint management tool, but it does have a waste section to it. So you could get your colleagues to sign up to Geeky Zero, focus on the waste section for that week, but then they might be encouraged to follow those geeky steps in the other areas thereafter. And TerraCycle, I mentioned earlier, they collect up these hard to recycle wastes. Just to give you a few examples of what other organisations would be doing, WAG make animal feed. None of their waste goes to landfill. What it cannot be recycled is sent to Ferry Bridge to generate electricity. They now run environmental training programs. Subjects include waste aggregation, animal byproducts, office-based environmental management, eco-driving and energy awareness. But importantly, what they did is they looked at their processes and they realized that one of their biggest areas of impact was in the packaging they were handing on to their customers. So now all their packaging is recyclable or compostable. Surrey Police took part in Zero Waste Week, and they mainly focused on their canteen, where they introduced charges for takeaway boxes and encourage people to either bring in their own sandwich box or food container, or use one that could be easily washed in the canteen, reusable sort of crockery. They also gave discounts for coffee brought in reusable cups and mugs. And they also spoke to their supplier, and they removed polystyrene, really difficult waste to recycle. Really has to be disposed of. So they removed the polystyrene from their catering supplies. Leader are a small office up in Leeds. They took part in Zero Waste Week last week. Most of their all of their employees, most of their employees were working at home at the time. They got people to pledge what they were going to do differently during Zero Waste Week. So one switched to a veg box delivery, and that was a habit that remained. One committed to buying produce from local shops and markets to reduce food packaging. One was baking cakes and biscuits rather than buying them in packets. One gave a talk on his hot composting bin, in which he puts his home food waste into. And another investigated what else could be recycled from their office. In the office, they realized they could reduce a lot of waste by setting up their own composting bin and switching their tea bags so that the tea bags were compostable. Many of you might know this, but there are only a few brands that actually sell their tea in compostable tea bags. Many of them, most tea bags have a bit of plastic in them, so they won't compost properly. You end up with these funny sort of ghosty looking things that contaminate your soil if you then use the compost once it's properly rotted down. So that was another way that they reduced their waste. And Minster vets now buy Bio-D laundry liquid, hand wash and washing up liquid in 20-litre drums. The Bio-D, the factory is local to them, and the products that they make are all environmentally friendly. So they really, they don't use harmful chemicals, and are all vegan friendly and things like that. So the cost savings have been slightly difficult for them to evaluate because of this is a much simpler procurement method, but the reduction in plastic has been notable, and people have really enjoyed this different approach. So if your Zero Waste Week campaign goes well, then you can participate in another campaign. And here's a list of all those that have taken place or are taking place in 2021. They will happen again in 2022, but just the dates will be slightly different. But we will publish those probably in the autumn or so. But they give you a good idea of how much is going on throughout the year. And then participating in Zero Waste Week can actually contribute towards your IIE award, can be used as an example of a project. You might want to enter it as an award for an award. It is, sorry, so the Zero Waste Week can contribute towards your certification, your accreditation, but you might want to enter it for the IIE awards. And the closing date for those awards are the 30th of September, which doesn't give you much time for monitoring the success of your campaign, but you can see. And then I just wanted to highlight some of the other events that are taking place, that are coming up, and which all your staff can attend. The IIE awards in particular is a cluster of events in 1 week in October on a wide range of environmental topics. So have a look, promote them to your staff, and let's see if we can get more people treading the green path. Right, that is it for today. If you have any questions as a result of this presentation, then please do call us or ideally email us, and we'll do our best to answer them. But thank you very much for listening.